Rockstar MBA, 77 untapped lessons on life, business, marketing, entrepreneurship, and leadership from rockstars. Rockstar MBA. Welcome to Rockstar MBA. What if the secrets to life and business success weren't found just in boardrooms, textbooks, classrooms, and journal articles, but through music and the arts? Rockstar MBA shares the untapped knowledge and wisdom acquired and shared by rock stars and the arts. And now, welcome your host, Dr. Martin J. McDermott of Rockstar MBA.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast, Rockstar MBA. My name is Martin McDermott. I'm the host and author of Rockstar MBA, 77 Untapped Lessons on Life, Business, Marketing, Entrepreneurship, and Leadership from Rockstars. So several years ago, I started a journey of writing a book called Rockstar MBA, and I'm delighted to say that the book was just released right before the close of 2025, and you can order the book from really any major distributor. And the theme of Rockstar MBA is that we can learn lessons on life, business, marketing, entrepreneurship, and leadership from rock stars and artists in general. And the book challenges you to see the world differently, where art and business are not opposites, but complementary ways of understanding creativity, value, and human connection. So last week, I was invited to speak at the New York Public Library System on the topic of entrepreneurship, and I would like to thank James Corey of the New York Public Library for setting up this wonderful program. And one of the topics I discussed was entrepreneurial types. And one example of entrepreneurial types is a franchise model. I had School of Rock on my franchise podcast several years ago, and since that time, the organization has had tremendous growth. On this podcast you're going to hear today, we're playing the interview with Rob Price, who was the CEO of School of Rock at the time. And School of Rock provides students with all ages with an exciting and engaging music lesson experience, including guitar, drums, piano, and even singing lessons. So drawing from all styles of rock and roll, School of Rock students learn theory and techniques through songs from legendary artists, whether it be Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, Frank Zappa. And thanks to the school's performance-based approach, students worldwide have gained superior music proficiency, with some moving to record deals and larger platforms such as American Idol, The Voice, and Broadway. And let's go right into our interview with Rob Price of the School of Rock.
That's some pretty big milestones, isn't it?
It's really exciting, and I feel like we're only scratching the surface.
That's incredible. How do you, Rob, when you're meeting with someone like for the first time, and they're interested in exploring School of Rock, and they want to know a little bit more about the franchise opportunity, how do you typically describe it to them?
Well, it's interesting. I have a great love of the franchising model, but as part of the dynamic in our conversations with franchisees is if you're considering this versus a hotel concept, or this versus a restaurant concept, or you're considering this versus a fitness concept, we're probably not the right concept. We want folks who begin with a passion for child development and for enriching lives. We want people who have an extraordinary dedication and a lifelong love of music. If not, they don't have to be a musician, but music can't be a fleeting interest. And so what we describe to the prospective franchisee is, do you want to join a passionate community? Do you want to join a cause, a mission that's anchored in those two principles, which is really love for music and love for enriching lives? And if so, then let's talk. Then we're the right place. If not, no hard feelings. We'll even advise you as to other franchises we think might be a better match if you're looking for something more conventional.
Right. I started taking up the guitar. It was a little later. I would say I was about 15 years old, and I started having an interest in guitar, Rob, and so I started taking guitar lessons. And I told this story 7 years ago, but I remember sitting in this little closet, and learning scales and things like that. And the teacher just didn't seem like looked like he was falling asleep as I was taking lessons. And I always said, God, I wish there was something like this around. When I was a kid, I mean, it's just so exciting. My wife and I were watching a video this morning on the website. It was where some of your students, I guess they were performing the Kansas song, Carry On Wayward Son. It just blows you away. I know you probably saw the video, but it just blows you away when you watch it.
I was there that night.
You're kidding. You were in the audience.
Shot. And and it's one of the great joys of the job. But what's so interesting is that, and you draw those comparisons, is that when you and I were kids, the way that you learn music is, in a room, individually, very technique focused.
Right.
And it almost couldn't have been designed better to drive children away from a love of music.
Right. Exactly.
And that having been said, all of those principles are super important. And, of course, the educators are incredibly important, these instructors. Right. But what we found is, you get those kids on stage crushing a Carry On My Wayward Son, and that hooks them for life. We want to teach kids to love to learn music for life, not just to learn music.
It was interesting when I was reading last week, Rob. Getting updated on School of Rock, and it's really amazing, that some of your students, I guess, they've gone on to perform at American Idol, The Voice, Broadway. I mean, how does that make you feel when you hear that?
Well, it's incredibly gratifying to know that those kids that had both the talent and the passion for being professional musicians find their way, in part because of what we do. But you know what? I'm just as excited about a kid we hear about who's at USC studying computer science, or joins the military and has leadership capabilities, or themselves becomes an entrepreneur because they have more confidence from their experience. So we see equal gratification in people pursuing a music career. But, we have partnerships brewing for that, relationships with Berklee College of Music and relationships with APG and Atlantic Records. But what we're looking to teach is more than just music. We're looking to teach life skills as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. How does technology play a role in the business today, Rob? As technology is constantly changing, isn't it? So probably from last time I interviewed School of Rock 7 years ago, I'm sure it's changed a little bit. And as you know, it's moving so fast. How does the organization use technology today?
Yeah, it's interesting. It'd be interesting for both of us to audit that interview 7 years ago and hear the answer to the question. The reality is, historically, technology has played a very, very small role in the business, and I think that has been a blessing in disguise. In the early days of retail and franchising, as technology became more emergent, people raced to build proprietary systems. We really didn't do that, not as a matter of strategy, but we were, building the course of the concept. But what that created is that now we're in a position to execute with all cloud-based services, best-in-breed functionality for our franchisees that's woven together in a fairly elegant way, and mostly using technology as a way to automate and reduce the complexity of the operations of the business. I would say that the big breakthrough for us now is that we are just launching, actually this week, we just put into pilot the first ever proprietary School of Rock learning app for our students. And we'll be rolling that out in just a couple of months. And it's really breakthrough in that it gives students not just access to the content and the curriculum, but an interactive tool to actually play to the exercises, get real-time assessments, and also communicate between lessons with their instructors on the progress of their work. Plus get access to about 1,100 popular songs that we use as part of our pedagogy. It's really cool stuff. So I think that in 7 years, we're going to be talking about a much more technology-forward experience for School of Rock than today. But that's the major technology priorities right now.
That's great. Do you find that the parents want to get involved too, Rob? I mean, when they see their kids, they're performing up on stage, and do you find that the older folks want to get involved in it too?
Absolutely, and I can actually, it's the old Hair Club for Men quote. I'm not just the president. I'm also a customer. I'm a School of Rock student. I'm in the adult band at the Norwood Walpole School of Rock, and I get a weekly individual lesson for guitar. I had that last night.
Wow.
And we have in all of our schools adult bands, mom bands. We do corporate training, and it's a really, really exciting and growing dimension of our business. And what we see is in markets like Brazil and Chile and Peru, it's an explosive part of our business. And so there's hope for you and me both, Marty. And we have a great school in Easton, Pennsylvania, and feel free to stop by there.
Yeah.
Yes,
I will.
Yeah, brand new facility there. Yeah,
that's great. And I know rock music is huge in South America. So I mean I think all of this is really fantastic. You're listening to Franchise Interviews, and we're speaking today with Rob Price, and Rob is the CEO of School of Rock. And School of Rock provides students of all ages an exciting and engaged music lesson experience, which includes guitar, drums, piano, and singing lessons. Maybe we could talk a little bit about your industry, Rob. I mean, because you're in a pretty huge industry. When we're talking about kids and we're talking about education, it seems like there's a crossover in several different industries that you're in. But I guess it's safe to say that you're in a pretty big industry, aren't you?
Yeah, we're in a multi-billion-dollar segment of the franchise industry, and as you probably know from all the work that you do, personal services and child enrichment is growing very, very rapidly, one of the fastest growing elements of franchising and the U.S. economy and the global economy. But it's a really interesting question. When folks ask me how big is my industry, I say, which industry?
Exactly.
At the narrowest sense, we're feeling really good about franchising. I think at the more global sense, we're in the industry of music, and depending on the estimates, a $40 to $100 billion global industry. And while the dynamics of music are changing, the overall music business is actually quite healthy. And there is still growth in the music instrument space. There's massive growth in the live performing space, which is really great for our kids. And so we feel like we're in a really, really vibrant space right now.
This is when I study all these different franchise opportunities, I mean, this is a fun franchise, Rob, isn't it? We have all types of franchises on the show. We have transmission franchises, we have chiropractic franchises. I mean, all types. But I mean, I guess at the end of the day, it's safe to say that this is, and I can hear it in your voice, that this is a fun franchise, isn't it?
It's we're fueled by passion more than anything else, and it's a business and a brand and a community and a cause that's very, very easy to get caught up in, because music is very endemic. The first rock and roll was, cavemen times, and two rocks being banged together and rolling on the ground. It's a little bit cheesy, but it's true.
Yeah.
There's a lot of evidence that music has a very, very central social function. So to have something that's so personal and intimate and important and global and unifying to work on is indeed, I'm not going to be shy. It's a fun business. We love it. We love it.
That's terrific. You probably have hundreds of stories, Rob, but I mean, one of the questions we like to ask someone like yourself is, I mean, what's been one of the most interesting things that's happened to you, since being part of School of Rock? And again, I know you have 100 or 200 stories, but does anything stand out over the years?
I think there's two different things. If you'll let me cheat and give you two answers, that are more instructive. We're now at a place where we're a real player in the music business. So a few months ago, I'm watching my social media feed, and I see a post of someone holding a camera at a St. Louis Blues games or a Nashville hockey game. Is that the Blues?
Right.
Nashville?
Right.
Yes, Nashville Blues game. And you see our School of Rock kids playing in the arena. Enter Sandman.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
by Metallica. Now that in itself is really cool until the person who was taking the camera turned it around, and it was James Hetfield from Metallica lip syncing to our kids singing Metallica, and he's laughing and smiling. And
could you imagine?
So it's a small example of what you're right are 100 things that are exciting. Is when our kids have Metallica as fans. That's a pretty cool thing.
That's amazing.
I would say at an intellectual level right now for me, the most exciting dimension is the relaunch of our curriculum, which is happening this fall. We're putting out proprietary method books, this new app, feature shows, relationships with publishers like Hal Leonard and the various artists. And it's a complete rewiring of what's already a successful concept, but as an advocate for, sustained music education and excellence, to know that we're putting out an even better product is going to be very, very exciting. So the geek in me is really excited about that.
That's terrific. And imagine social media must play such a huge part, in your business as well, Rob. Is where your customers, your students. I mean, they're probably posting left and right as far as playing music because they're so proud, aren't they? And I imagine social media has played a big impact.
It's interesting. It's a blessing and a curse because there's very, very, very rigid copyright law, and as a the number one producer, the future of artists, we are very focused on protecting the intellectual property and honoring and rewarding historical artists. So the video of Carry On Your Wayward Son, we pay rights to. We want to make sure that the authors of that work, the creators of that work get represented. So we're actually very kind of passionate about this topic, is that you see a lot of folks in the space posting videos that they have not gone through the proper channels, and it's important in a franchise setting for us to be totally buttoned up on behalf of our franchisees. And I'm really proud of our owners and their commitment to intellectual property and copyright protection and sheet music integrity. So yes, it is a huge portion of what we do, but also requires us to do a lot of work and spend a lot of money to make sure that we're doing the right thing.
That's fantastic. That's so important. Maybe we could talk a little bit about franchising, Rob. You kind of hinted early, on some of the types of characteristics and traits, you look for in your franchisees. But is there anything else, as far as like when you're meeting with a prospective franchisee that you're looking for as you're speaking to them?
Yeah, I think that, we talked about passion. We talked about this lifelong love of music, whether they're a musician or whether they're a music aficionado. I would say the other dimensions that really matter to us is detail orientation. This is largely the customer base are going to be children. We have to be very careful, very focused on the mechanics of the business. They have to be embedded in their community and get excited about going out to the community, both in terms of customer acquisition, but our concept is based on performance. So getting gigs, having our house bands and our performance programs, our ensembles out there playing. And so somebody who's really excited about that. And then this probably applies to most of your guests, but franchise ownership isn't something that, you can't just be an owner when you want to. We really want to make sure people are not renting this concept, but that they're owning and contributing to it, that it's a full contact sport, that they're engaged in the community, that our owners are challenging us and challenging each other and communicating and sharing and collaborating. So we suss that out during our process to make sure that somebody's going to be additive to our community and bring us new insight and learning. And I can rely on them being a mentor for me and being a
Sure.
mentor for our other owners.
That's terrific. What were some of your franchisees doing in their past lives before they became franchisees, Rob? I mean, again, now you're up to over 200, plus franchises. What were some of them doing beforehand?
Yeah, we've got a huge array. Our new Braunfels franchisee is a super successful touring musician. Our Carmel and Fisher's franchisees, former CFO of a major company. We have former investment bankers. We have lawyers. We have salespeople, marketing people. I would say the minority of our owners are or were professional musicians.
Right.
The majority of our owners are musicians, but the vast majority of our owners all have already achieved success and significance in other zones of their lives. Because we curate our franchisees. We try to pick people who bring skills so that, and it's totally selfish, I must admit. That way I can call up one franchisee and say, hey, listen, I'm really struggling with this profitability analysis. What did you see in your days in the Fortune 50 company? Or, when we're talking about deals with gear vendors, talking to a touring musician who's already struck those deals. It's very, very gratifying to have a franchisee base who is as competent and skilled and diverse as we have.
It's nice to share those best practices, isn't it, Rob? As a franchise starts to, really get big, and it's nice to know, and I'm sure you guys, when all your franchisees meet together in the sharings of best practices, that really adds to the value of the franchise, doesn't it?
It does. We just recently had our biennial convention, and it was incredible. We organized it all around franchisees sharing with other franchisees based on their experience. We co-hosted each of the sessions. And as you can imagine, the jam session we have on Friday night at our convention
I can only imagine.
Pretty amazing. That's incredible.
That's amazing. What's the training like for your new franchisees, Rob? I mean, do they come out to corporate for that? Is that how it works, or where it
they
begins?
Do, and in some respects, I think it's very similar to other franchise concepts where there'd be an immersive initial training. I think there are two other things that are a little bit different that we do is that we actually have a team thoroughly dedicated to our new school openings. So you have to graduate out of that team. You get very, very intense ongoing focus from folks on marketing concepts, on technology, on mapping your community, on getting your lease set up, et cetera. And we put new franchisees together into cohorts for collaboration, competition, healthy competition, and they learn together. And then I think the other dimension of our training, which is really cool, is that we've got a very, very, very dynamic, informal communication channel in Facebook Workplace. It's an internal tool that's just like Facebook without any of the external kind of distractions. And we have topical groups and also, a town hall kind of setting. And our franchisees compare notes. We post things out, and they post things out, post questions. And then, like many other franchises, we have monthly gatherings via webinar. We have 4 different standing ones. So it's pretty intense ongoing communication with our franchisees. And frankly, every franchisee has my cell number. So if there's any questions or concerns, they can call me at any time, 24/7.
And that's good to know too, Rob, because as you know, I mean, there are again, we've had all sorts of franchises on the show. I mean, we've had some franchises that have had 30,000 plus units, and I always wonder sometimes how you can maintain that.
We're very blessed because I think it's almost for the foreseeable future we're going to be able to continue that mode. But it's the part of the reason that I can do it is that my franchisees now have a team of people who are supporting them at corporate, who they'll, in all likelihood, they're going to know to call the head of IT for advice on IT before me. But I think that it's nice that I have that personal connection with franchisees.
Right.
It's certainly nice for me, and I don't imagine that being an issue. When we have 30,000 units, let's talk again. I'll figure something out by then.
That's great. You're listening to Franchise Interviews, and today we are speaking with Rob Price, and Rob is the CEO of School of Rock, and School of Rock provides students of all ages an exciting and engaged music lesson experience, which includes guitar, drums, piano, and singing lessons. Maybe we could talk a little bit about, what is a typical day like for a School of Rock franchisee, Rob? I'm sure every day is a little bit different, but, I'm sure you have those commonalities within the day. Maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I think part of it is just understanding the context. So a School of Rock will be 2,500 to 3,000 square feet with lesson rooms, and then our all-important rehearsal rooms where our performance programs, our ensembles are playing. But what an owner will typically do, especially if they're kind of playing the role of the GM or playing the role of the music director, they're going to focus before the school opens, say at 2 o'clock. They might focus for an hour or two on leads, working through leads, really focusing on communicating with those leads, talking about our concept, bringing people in for trial lessons, and preaching, if you will, the power of music education and the power of our pedagogy, converting those folks into customers and into parts of our community and our family. And then, I think it's equal portions the rest of the day of customer interaction, which is really fun because you get both the parent and the kid, and you get to see the growth. Sort of operations management, everything from scheduling to billing and administration, et cetera. And in some ways the hardest, but in some ways the most fun part of the job is everything related to the convening and the playing out. So setting up venues, setting up performances, seasonal shows, making sure with your music staff that the kids are ready, checking in with the kids, getting the kids pumped and excited. Sometimes it's about explaining to the kid why, yes, it's going to be really great for you to do a Southern rock show. I know it may not be your favorite music, but there's something you're going to learn from it. And inevitably, at the end of those seasons, the kids say, that was the best show I've ever done. I'm now a huge Lynyrd Skynyrd fan. And we feel very good about sort of sustaining the heritage and the legacy of rock and roll by doing that. So it's pretty dynamic, and you're right. There isn't any typical day, but those are the general categories that a franchisee will experience.
That's terrific. I can see you have an appreciation for franchising as well, Rob. And most of our listeners, almost 99.9% of them, they're in the market to buy a franchise, or they're looking to buy a franchise, and that's why they listen to the show. From everything you've learned up to this point, what advice would you give to our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise?
Draw this from previous experience too, in franchising and retail and marketing. And I know from my own personal transition into this role is that there is a very, very, very big difference when you are at your very core of being passionate about what you're working on. And when you're making an investment that at minimum is a 10-year commitment, and at maximum can be decades and even generational. If you don't love it, don't do it. And now, can you make a lot of money as a franchisee in a concept you don't love? Yes. Can you be gratified? Can you add value to the world? Yes. But if people are asking my advice, and it's the advice I give for School of Rock, which is we'd rather grow slower, and we'd rather have fewer people in and more of them really being bought in. And the reason is there's going to be days that are really hard, and you need to draw on a pool of resources that are more than monetary and more than skills. You need to really draw on your passion and your love And so I know it's sort of a cheesy piece of advice, but if your heart's not telling, if it's only your head that's telling you to do it, then I wouldn't recommend it.
I think it's great advice, Rob. It's true. It's what gets you through the hard days, doesn't it? I mean, and it doesn't matter what type of franchise. I mean, there's always going to be there's good days and then there's bad days. Regardless of the system. And I think, as you said, that love gets you through the day, doesn't it? And you don't give up. And I think when you don't have that passion, it almost makes you want to quit, doesn't it?
It does, and I say to prospective franchisees, do not proceed if you don't like us at our discovery day, which we call opening act. Right. Then
That's
run
great.
like hell, because we're at our best. So, if you really don't like us, and it's kind of a silly thing, but the reality is it is a community, it is a family, and we're going to hang together, and we're going to spend a lot of time together. But I also advise folks to gauge their sense of love for the other franchisees, because that's actually way more important. When all's said and done, the power of our community is not just the corporate and the individual franchisee relationship. It's we work together unit to unit way more so than a typical franchise would.
That's terrific. So I can ask you the next question, Rob. I mean, where do you see School of Rock? I mean, what are the plans for the future? If you can look into that crystal ball, maybe 3 to 5 years down the road, where do you see the organization?
Well, we're blessed in that we have a lot of additional growth in our existing markets, not just the U.S., but markets from Australia to South Africa to Chile to Peru have a lot of additional footprint to build. We're only scratching the surface as it relates to certain geographies. I mean, to be a rock and roll concept and not to be in the UK is kind of embarrassing. So we've got a lot of work to do, and thankfully we're in discussions on 3 additional countries right now I'll hope to follow up with you. But I would anticipate us in 5 years having nearly tripled the student count. With 36,000 students today, I'd like to be around 100,000 students.
Wow.
In 5 years. That's not a crazy idea. And then I think the other part of our growth is really filling out these other areas of creative exploration. Our adult band program, what we call our Little Wing program, which is kind of a mommy and me program.
Oh, interesting.
Recording and production, songwriting. So there's a lot of growth to be had in our existing schools. And I would say, I always talk about growth in our existing schools last, because as everyone's heard me say it, the most important growth is the growth of existing units. So we're focused a lot on our menu, if you will, a lot on our offer, a lot of an improving experience, increasing conversion, increasing retention, and expanding our line of services.
That's terrific. How can our listeners get more information, Rob, for the School of Rock? I mean, as far, of course, the franchise opportunity, but even the program itself. Are there any websites that you kind of like to direct them to get more information?
Yeah. So, I mean, we've got a really great new site, schoolofrock.com. It'll give you the opportunity to look at what we do, franchising, and really cool videos, and also resource articles on you need to know how to tune your guitar.
Right. That's fantastic. Well, I've really enjoyed talking to you, Rob, and I'd already like to invite you back over the next year or two, because I love this franchise opportunity, and I've really enjoyed talking to you today.
It's a date, and come on in for a guitar lesson. We'll get you set straight.
You got it. It was great talking to you.
All right.
We'll be right